Good evening. This is King Thomas Spence, clan chief of the Spence clan, calling from Chicago, Illinois. This has been covered by the world-famous television crew of Paul and Teresa Connors from Cumbernauld, which is a highfalutin suburb just south of Glasgow. No expense was spared to get these people over here to do this job. I have been in Chicago or in America for 58 years. And this is my first speech, inaugural speech, extravaganza, and it's no a fourth time. My sister Rena, she's the queen and she's in charge of the Spence clan in the UK, Ireland, England, Scotland, and I'm in charge of the worldwide clan in Chicago, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and finally we're going global with my daughter Fiona Maguire Spence, making her stance in the Middle East and Saudi Arabia. So we're definitely going global. Now I have 5 children. Katrina has 6 kids between her and Les. She has twin girls. Caroline, oh no, she has twin girls, Maggie and Gracie. They're 18 years old. Our other girl, Caroline, is 20. Caroline goes to Purdue College. The other kids are still in high school, the other 2. Now, Marie's kids, she has 4. She also has twins. A boy, Liam, 14, and Nora, the girl, of course, she's 14. And she has Maeve, a 17-year-old, and Claire, a 19-year-old who's at Oberlin College. Now, Sarah lives in Chicago, but she's about 50 miles away in a place called Beverly. Her and her husband and my grandson, wee Thomas, who's 4, have been living down there for about 4 years. Alex is an attorney, and Sarah works with computers. I don't know what she does, but she's supposed to be pretty good. Now, Katrina, she's an attorney and she lives in Northwest Indiana with her, oh, I named the kids already. Her husband, Les, his 3 kids are Ellie, Ian, and Kayla. The husband is an electrical engineer, Les. His last name is Smock. They have kind of Scotch ancestry in the background. Now, let me see now what I can talk about now. Like I said, we are a big clan. Like Queen Rena. She's a Maguire. Her name is Catherine Maguire Spence. She gets that from my great-great-grandfather, who was Thomas Maguire. He was Irish, actually. So my granny was Catherine Maguire Spence. So that Maguire name went to Rena. It skipped me, but we gave it to Fiona. So she's Fiona Maguire. So that's where the Maguires come in. So actually, they're a big part of the Spence clan, the Maguires. They came originally from Ireland, I don't know where, but maybe someday somebody can do the genealogy and find out where they came from. They came from Ireland probably during the time of the famine and went to Scotland to survive. Like I say, we have members in, our clan members are in Australia, New Zealand, Scotland, England, Ireland, Glasgow, and the Middle East. Now, Katrina, as I say, she's an attorney. She's running for judge next year in Northwest Indiana. And she should have a good chance of getting the nomination, but you never know. She is the oldest of my children. She was actually born in Glasgow. She was born in Maryland Street, which is in Govan. She was born in St. Francis Nursing Home, 1971, exactly 1 week after the Ibrox disaster. If you remember that disaster, there was 70 or so killed at that. She was born right at the back door, at the end of the steps coming out the Rangers End. That's where St. Francis Nursing Home was. Marie was born here, as was the rest of the kids. Fiona, Thomas and Sarah. My wife, my queen, is May Walsh. She was born in County Kerry in a place called Listowel, which was famous for literature and writers. John B. Cain was one who was very famous. He just died a few years ago. She had 3 brothers, Jerry, Pat, and Christy. They've all passed away. She had 2 sisters, Eileen, who is back in the homestead back in Listowel, and her big sister, Bridie, is in Syracuse, New York, where I first came to when I came to America in 1961. I came here to my Auntie Molly, who had left Glasgow. She left Glasgow in 1926. Came home for a vacation to see my mother in 1961. And before she left, she says to me, "If you want to visit us, you're welcome." So she was hardly off the plane when I was banging in her door, and she never expected that. I think she was a kind of wee bit scared of me because she didn't understand me. I was 18, and of course, I got a job right away. She got me I got a job within a couple of days in a sawmill, and of course, every night I stopped after work for a couple of beers, and it was winter time too. So she was annoyed when I'd come in late at night with snow over my shoes, and I never took my shoes off, so I don't blame her, the poor woman. But anyway, after about 6 months, I took off to Boston, to a pal of mine from Donegal that had lived round the corner for us in Argowan Street in Glasgow, Dennis Ruddy. I stayed with him, worked in Boston for about, that would be 62 to 64, went into the army in 64, 3 years in the United States Army, infantry, heavy weapons, travelled a good part of Europe and Turkey and Greece, and luckily enough I was in before the Vietnam War really started. I went in 64 and got out in 1967. Went back to Scotland because I get separated in Europe, which you could do. Went back to Scotland and stayed there for almost a year till my dad says to me, get back to America. He says, you're nothing for you here. So I went down to the American Air Force Base in Ruslip, which is in just outside of London, and presented myself and told them I wanted to go back to America, which was their obligation. I had 1 year to stay in Europe, and then they were obligated to fly me back to Maguire, which was funny, that Air Force name, Maguire Air Force Base in New Jersey. So after a lot of argy-bargying, and of course I had no uniform, nothing, just, you know, that was a time when the Beatles were running riot and the Rolling Stones, and I had the long hair and really, you know, looked like a right yobo, as they would say. But anyway, they didn't want to take me in the plane. So I had a great idea. I went to the chaplain on the Air Force Base, and I think his name was Byrne, Father Byrne. And I told him my story. He says, he took me over to where they were boarding and said, this guy's going back to Maguire Air Force Base today. It was the last day. I had to get back, the 30th of August. So I get back, no money, landed in Maguire Air Force Base, called a pal of mine I was in the army with in Chicago, and told him the story, and he says, okay, just go to the counter and tell them there's a ticket there for you. He sent it by, I don't know how they did it, no airmail, telegraph or telegram or money, whatever. And after a couple of hours, they said, okay, your ticket's here to Chicago. Went to Chicago, moved in with this guy, him and his wife, moved into the apartment, got a job on the Monday, and then within about a week, I was on my own. I got my own apartment, went to the dancing one night and met May at the Irish dancing. So I met her in September, I think it was. We get married in February 1970, so it's coming up in 50 years now. Valentine's Day, by the way, which was very nice. But by the time we get married, after 5 months in Chicago, I knew everybody. I knew them all. We had a big wedding and over 400 people there. And it was, back in them days, you didn't book a hall like, we booked a hall like a Lions Club. It's something like could be YMCA hall or something. You booked a hall, then you got a caterer, and you supplied your own drink, and then you get your own bartenders and everything. So we made a lot of money at the wedding back in them days. 1970, I think we made about maybe $5,000 or $6,000, which was a lot of money then. So that was supposed to buy the house. So anyway, May was working, I was working, and she was expecting. So I had a brilliant idea. We'll go back to Scotland and have the first Wayne born in Scotland. So May went along with it. That was Katrina. She was born on January the 8th, 71, in St. Francis Nursing Home in Govan. Of course, we stayed there and blew the money, the house money was all blown. Oh, I forgot to tell you that part about it. We went back to Queen Elizabeth from New York. I drove my car up from Chicago onto the boat, out to Southampton, drove up to Glasgow, then went to Ireland to see her people, then come back to Glasgow. Katrina was born in January. Then the money ran out, no money. I was working in Helensburgh, in construction. And Of course, no money again. Sold the car to Charlie Brand, the guy, I'll never forget his name, he was a contractor in Glasgow. I sold him a lot of money for it. I think I got maybe £2,000 for it, which was a lot of money back then too. It was a lot of dough. So it was worth every penny. It was a Ford Galaxy 500. And we went to Ireland, to May's place. And she stayed at her house and I went back to America. And after about a month, I had enough money to bring her and Katrina. So that's been my journey in America. I mean, there's a lot of ups and downs, and I worked in construction. I worked in the nuclear power plant, which was a great job. Building it, like building the nuclear power plant. There was a lot of people died in it, but falling off of scaffolds and stuff. But I was okay, luckily enough, and made good money, real good money back in 1972, 73. So they finally bought a house in 1975. Not the one we're in now. We bought a house, not as good a neighbourhood, further into the city. Then in 79 we bought the house we're in now. So I was working in construction up till my boy Thomas, my right hand man, get born. He was born in 75 and he had Down syndrome, which didn't make any difference to us because we weren't going to send him away anywhere because, you know, we'd keep him anyway. He's still with us today, thank God. So he's the light of our life. I'd say only for him we wouldn't be in the position we are today, retired and have enough money to live the rest of their life without worrying about anything or being a burden to any of the kids. Because when he was born, when I bought it, well, he was born in 75. 1979, I bought the house we're now in. And the real estate guy that sold me the house was a Croatian. And this guy was, as they say in America, a bullshit artist. But I knew he was, and it didn't bother me. Nick Papik, his name was. He says to me, when he was collecting the commission off me, I had to pay him commission for the sale of the house. He says, you know, he says, you'd make a fortune in real estate. He says, with your connections and your accent, you can't miss. Well, I knew he was just, he says, I'll give you a job. He says, if you want to be a real estate agent, I'll hire you. And I knew the guy was giving me the story. So I said, okay, Nick, I'll take you up on it. So I went to the school for a couple of months and got my license. He was like my Auntie Molly. He thought, never see this guy again. All he was interested in really was getting a commission off me for showing me the house and writing the contract. So anyway, this was about maybe 3 months after we moved into the house we're in now. I walked into his office one day and he was sitting at a desk smoking his pipe, you know. Oh, how you doing? How's it going? You know, I said, well, I'm going to take you up on that offer. You're going to hire me. Certainly, he says. Yeah, you're in. You got a license? I said, yeah. Oh, congratulations. There was about 10 desks in the office. They were all empty. That's your desk there, he said, and pointed to a desk. You sit down there. He got me a telephone book about that thing. Put a telephone book down there, and he says, he went around, and he tore out like 2 pages. He says, these are your 2 pages. You call all these people and ask them if they want to sell their house. Oh, all right. He says, and when they say they want to sell their house, you go over and have them sign the contract. I said, fine. So he gets up right away and left. He says, just shut the door, he says, when you leave. So anyway, that was a Friday. I'll never forget it. It was a Friday. So I said, all right, Nick. So he left. And before he left, he says, tomorrow is Saturday. I'll no be here, he said. So it's your floor time, which meant that anybody that comes in that door to buy a house, they're your customer, Tommy, right? I said, oh, sure, Nick. Which I found out 2 or 3 years later, nobody ever came in the door. Nobody. So I'm looking at all these people, I'm calling people, hello, would you like to sell your... Bang. Getting all kinds of dog's abuse. So anyway, I chucked that, went out and locked the door, went home, come in the next day, he'd give me the key, opened the door, come in there about 9 in the morning, Saturday morning, sitting there, put on the wireless, sitting there and reading the paper, you know. The door opened, this woman walked in, well dressed, a real lady, like, you know, high class woman. And she says, I'm looking for apartment buildings. And I says, yeah. I says, what kind of apartment buildings? Well, you know, 6, 10, 12 flats. And we had a big book with what was all listed, and I'd go to the pages. And I says, yeah, what kind of, I'll show her 2 or 3. She says, this one was 165,000, never forget it. She says, this one looks pretty reasonable. I just want it for an investment, she says. Her name was Dorothy McCarthy. So I says, all right, hold on. I called up the agent, you know, the agent's name, it was some other real estate office, right? I called him up and said, this is Town Realty. I've got a customer here would like to see the 10 flat it was in Franklin Park, which is about 15 miles away. And the agent was there, luckily enough, and she says, well, can't show it today, you have to make an appointment. And I said, well, this woman is interested, she wants to see it. She says, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll call up and make an appointment. What time do you want to go? This was like maybe 11. I said, well, what about 12 o'clock? Okay, so I hung up. She says, hang up, I'll call you back. So I'm sitting there talking to this Dorothy McCarthy. And the phone rings. It's the other agent. I can't make it, she says, but I made the appointment. I said, what do I do? Just go there, and there was 5 units and 5 above it. Just go to any door. They were all 4-room apartments. Just go to any door and ring the bell, and when the people come to the door, just tell them that you talked to me and you wanted to see the apartment. I found out later, of course, that she never made an appointment. So I went there anyway, ringing doorbells. Finally, some guy, I think he was a Filipino or something, opened the door and he couldn't even speak English. So I said, I'm here to show the apartment. He goes, oh, I just walked by him. Dorothy said, oh, well, it's all right, I'll take it. I had all the figures in the sheet in the office for the listing, so we went back to the office, I wrote the contract for 160, maybe 160,000, a couple of grand less. Dorothy went home, signed a promissory note for like maybe 5 grand, went home, and I said, I'll call you later and tell you what happens. So I called the agent, and she wasn't there, and I talked to her boss, and I said, I've got an offer for that thing in Franklin Park, which had been on the market for months. Nobody wanted it, it's a dump. So he contacted her right away, and I went over to the office, presented the office. She got the people that owned the building who didn't live there. They were just investors like this woman. Went over to the office, signed it all up, boom, boom, copies to everybody. Called Dorothy, told her it was done. She said, I'll bring the money in, and Monday morning I'll bring in the deposit, you know. So anyway, Monday morning, no, that was Saturday. Sunday morning, I'm in the office and Nick comes in. Nobody else in the office, the empty desk, I'm sitting there. How did you make out yesterday? I said, oh, pretty good, Nick. He said, did you contact them on the phone? I says, no. He said, them they come in? I says, oh yeah, a woman come in. Oh yeah. I said, I sold her a 10 flat. He couldn't believe it. That's a fact. So anyway, the deal went down. I made money, maybe that'd be about $4,000 for that one sale back then. That was a hell of a lot of money back in 1975. A hell of a lot of money for no working after killing yourself in the construction. But while I was working in the construction for them 4 or 5 years before I went into the real estate, I met all the contacts, all the Irish guys that were all building, working in construction, and they all had money. They were all my age, and they were all just married, getting ready to buy. I was selling houses to beat the band. Unbelievable. So that was my story, and that's also while I was working in construction in 75, I'd been going to school. I'd been going to night school at a two-year college. And I went there for 2 years on the GI Bill. Cost me nothing. And the government paid for the schooling. Plus, I was taking a full course, like, what do they call it? I was taking maximum classes you could take. I was getting enough money to pay the mortgage after the government. So I was paying my mortgage after the government. And they only paid you for 3 years. It's a 2-year college. They only paid you for 3 years, and if you didn't graduate, you were out the door. I lasted 3 years because I kept taking electives that wouldn't count to graduate. You know, humanities and history and daft things, music. But I was still getting the dough off the government. So after 3 years, they stopped paying me. So I chucked that. So that's about all. My sister Rena, she has a load of grandkids and a load of relatives on the other side of the Atlantic. I've got a load of grandkids here in this side of the Atlantic, and I'd like to see them visit each other in the future, because I like to keep the family connection with both sides of the Atlantic, and both of them have loads of relatives. Like all my Owens have relatives, and their kids will, when they get married, they'll have relatives. Same thing for the ones in Scotland, in England, and Ireland. Ireland's a big part of our family and Rena's family, because Rena's husband, Pat, his people were from Roscommon in Ireland, and my wife's people, well, my wife's from Kerry, and she's got a big family in Kerry. So, you know, and Uncle Mick, Michael McNiff, my brother-in-law, was married to Ellen. He was born and raised in Ireland and came to Scotland in the early 60s from Leitrim, where my mother's people came from, which would be their granny, Rena's kid's granny. She was her family was from Leitrim. And actually, that's another thing. Her family was the reason for me to even be in America. Her sister Molly, the one I talked about, that went in 1926 to Syracuse. and came back to visit in 1961 to Glasgow. And that's the name here. We're wrapping up. I want to wish you all Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'll leave you with this wee song. Last night I went out with my cronies, one or two pals o' mine. We went into the hotel, did very well, then we came out once again. And then we went into another, and that is the reason I'm full. With six token Doris's sang a wee chorus. Listen, I'll sing it to you. I belong to Glasgow, dear old Glasgow town. There's nothing the matter with Glasgow, for it's going round and round. I'm only a common old working chap, as anyone here can see. But when I get a couple of drinks on a Saturday, Glasgow belongs to me. Oh, Glasgow on the Clyde, there's no a place in all this world, say wide. Oh, be ye rich, or be ye poor, or be ye up or down, you'll always find a welcome in dear old Glasgow town.
Until about 10 seconds left. So then if anything goes wrong, you know, you have a shot.
of fire